And also coming up tonight, government accepts recommendations to extend presidential term from 4 to 5 years.
Tonight, examination malpractice declines as WAEC highlights improved BEC monitoring and enforcement measures during the 2026 examination.
Later in business news, financial economist urges government to turn economic stability into real jobs.
In international news today, Oprah Winfrey announces closure of South African Girls' School after nearly 2 decades of transformative education. Welcome to the program. We're live and interactive on our social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. Settle with us as we bring you details of the headlines and some more in the world of business, sports and entertainment.
We begin from the court where a former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has questioned the rationale behind the decision to uphold the appeal against the 10-year sentence of former Maslok CEO, Sedina Tamakloe. Earlier, the Court of Appeal, in a unanimous decision, acquitted and discharged the former Maslok CEO. Lord Idwasari reports.
Sedina Tamakloe was in April 2024 sentenced by an Accra High Court after she was convicted of 78 counts of offences, including stealing, causing financial loss to the state, money laundering, and procurement-related offences over the alleged embezzlement of more than $6 million in public funds. The offences were said to have been committed between 2013 and 2016. The court handed her a 10-year jail term in absentia after the former Maslok CEO obtained permission to travel out to the jurisdiction for medical treatment during the trial, only to never return. Her lawyers filed a notice of appeal in May 2024 to challenge the sentence on grounds that the charges were defective and that the prosecution failed to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. Madam Ationu was, however, extradited from the United States to Ghana on June 9, 2026 to serve a sentence. On Thursday, July 30, a 3-member panel of justices of the Court of Appeal unanimously agreed with the appellants, noting that, among other things, the trial judge lost sight of the presumption of an accused person's innocence until proven guilty. The justices also indicated that the prosecution failed to prove the charges against her beyond reasonable doubt. They thus acquitted and discharged Sedina Tamakloe. Lawyers of the former Maslok CEO commended the court's decision.
Let me seize the opportunity to thank my lords for, in fact, for agreeing with us that, in fact, for agreeing with our submission. But I am a happy person, and I believe my client is also will also be happy.
A former Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, expressed disappointment at the ruling.
Sedina was convicted on very credible evidence and all, and he conducted the appeal to find out from the current Attorney General what he feels about the acquittal of Sedina and why Sedina was acquitted. I don't know why she was acquitted. So find out from the current Attorney General why that happened and what he feels. Yes, and Sedina actually absconded after she had actually been confronted with the evidence led by the prosecution. It was not for nothing.
Lord Idwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Well, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, says his office will appeal the Court of Appeal's decision that acquitted and discharged the former Maslok CEO, Sedina Tamakloe.
This morning, the Court of Appeal issued a decision unanimously acquitting and discharging Sedina Tamakloe, who was convicted of various offenses in absentia because, she was standing trial, and in the course of the trial, she sought permission to travel abroad for medical reasons and then remain in the United States for the rest of the trial. the trial court convicted her of the offenses charged, and then an appeal was filed by her lawyers in May 2024. I want this to be made abundantly clear that it was my predecessor who filed the appeal. However, coming into office, I reviewed what was filed, and I directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file opposing the appeal, because we believe that the High Court judgment had merit. Now, with this judgment, I've also directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file a notice of appeal and apply for stay of execution, meaning that if the stay is granted, the status quo will prevail until such a time that the Supreme Court has had time to review the appeal and then made a determination. So that is all that I can say for now. I have a soft copy of the judgment. I'm yet to peruse it and then come to a firm conclusion as to what will be our grounds of appeal. But I want to emphasize that I believe that the judgment of the High Court had merit, and that the United States District Court that extradited her to Ghana had a basis for making a determination that she was the proper subject for extradition.
Well, still on
This
the matter,
morning,
the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice, like you know by now, has filed a stay of execution against the appeal court's decision in favor of the former CEO of Maslock, Sedina Tamakloe Atieno. And let me take you through some portions of the reasons given by the AG's department necessitating this move. And you see on your screen that the Attorney General is arguing that the Court of Appeal's decision has resulted in what it describes as a substantial miscarriage of justice. So according to the application, the judgment contains significant errors in both law and fact, which the state believes are evident from the court's own record. Also, the state also maintains that its appeal is not frivolous. It says the case raises serious and debatable legal questions that deserve to be considered by a higher court, and that these grounds give the appeal a realistic chance of succeeding. Now, on the basis, the Attorney General is asking the court to temporarily halt the enforcement of the Court of Appeal's judgment delivered on the 30th of July 2026. Now, this would preserve the current situation until the final determination of the state's appeal. Now, the fourth thing we're looking at is that should the matter not be stayed, there's a real likelihood of the respondent leaving the jurisdiction and rendering the efforts of the applicant in this matter nugatory. That's a concern that the Attorney General has in relation to the ongoing developments. And finally, the matters set above constitute special circumstances warranting the grant of this application. So these are the reasons given by the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, that the state wants to stay the order given by the court.
In more news tonight, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has outlined government's position on key recommendations of the Constitutional Review Committee, including proposals to extend the presidential term. Now, presenting government's position, Dr. Dominic Ayine says each recommendation has undergone extensive constitutional and legal scrutiny.
The white paper outlines the government's position on proposals submitted by the Constitutional Review Committee chaired by the H. Kwesi Prempeh Committee, which presented its report to the President on December 22, 2025. Among the proposals accepted by the government are
to extend the term of office of the President from 4 years to 5 years, with the term of Parliament extended to correspond with this. Our thinking is practical. Under the current 4-year cycle, the early months of every administration are consumed by transition matters, and the final year is largely consumed by elections. A 5-year term provides a more realistic time frame for the formulation, implementation, and assessment of government policy.
on reducing the minimum age to contest the presidency from 40 to 35 years, government settled on 30 years proposed by the committee to broaden participation while maintaining the level of maturity for the office.
First, the government supports a fixed tenure for the Chief Justice. That is a single, non-renewable term of 10 years or until the age of retirement. The government supports capping the Supreme Court's membership. Currently, the committee recommended a cap of 15 justices. The government proposes 19. That is the Chief Justice and 18 justices of the Supreme Court.
On holding the presidential elections during the first week of November and a date to be determined by the Electoral Commission to provide a predictable electoral calendar and allow sufficient transition before the presidential inauguration in January. The government also settled on the requirement that the president should pay taxes on his salaries, allowances, and applicable indirect taxes, although retirement, gratuity, and pension will remain exempt.
Under the government proposal, the president will nominate 5 persons, 2 of whom shall be women. Out of the 5, 3 shall be shortlisted, 1 of whom shall be a woman, after vetting by a committee drawn from the Ministry of Local Government, the Public Services Commission, and the Local Government Service. Those 3 will then be candidates for election as district chief executive or municipal or metropolitan chief executive.
The government has also accepted a recommendation by the Constitutional Review Committee to allow Ghanaians with dual citizenship to hold a public office with the exemption of the offices of the president and the vice president.
The current disqualification sits uneasily with our engagement with the diaspora and with the realities of modern citizenship. In line with this proposal, it is also the case that multiple citizenship will no longer disqualify a person from becoming, from holding certain, offices.
Well, Professor Inokopo Quintri is an expert in governance and leadership, and he's joining us so we can delve deeper into some of these proposals, if you like. Prof, good evening to you. A white paper.
Good evening. How are you? And greetings to your listeners everywhere in the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking. We know that you're well as well. Let me go straight into it. The white paper on the 5-year presidential term from the current 4 years is available, if you like. My first question to you is, what would be your initial reaction to this? Is this a good one?
I think the dreams of ex-president Professor Mills has come true. This is what he wished for. And I'm really excited that the current president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has executed it to perfection. I also think that the Constitutional Review Committee has done a great job. And now that there's a white paper on it, some of the highlights are amazing. And that is what we have been looking for. So for the first time, we are being serious with our democracy. And I thank all the stakeholders that participated in making all the recommendations possible.
And Prof, let's talk on some other findings or some other writings in the report. On election petition, an aggrieved candidate has 14 days to file, and the Supreme Court also has 30 days to rule on the matter. How crucial will this be to governance and election petition adjudication?
We know that anytime there's election petitions, we also need time for the petitioners to submit their cases, credible evidences, to go to court so that the court will look at the credibility of those evidences and then make a judgment. So I think that the days given are good enough because if it is accepted, then we have to go for reruns. And this contains a lot of logistics. So I think that they look at all these before tagging that date of 2 weeks. And 14 days, which is 2 weeks, is enough for petitioning and then coming out with a credible judgment. Because the issue now is that we have a lot of people who are losing, interest and trust in our judiciary system. So when they have enough time to see all the evidences and make a judgment, I think it's going to work well for justice for those who are interested in electioneering processes.
And talking about election, government also proposes 300 ceiling for members of parliament of which 276 will be directly elected, as we have now, but 24 on a proportional basis to women and persons with disabilities. What's your take on that?
I think that for far too long we've marginalized our women and then people with disabilities in our societies. It is not Ghanaians' fault, because even if you look at America, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, came in 1990. So for a long time in their constitution, they abandoned the disabled. And now that we are recognizing that we need a slot for women and the disabled, I think it really helps a lot, because women think differently from men, and most people are not aware of that. We even now have PhD in women's studies. So yes, it is important that we give women that kind of opportunity, because their thought processes sometimes are different from men. The little things that men ignore, women really recognize that. So we need women and people with disabilities in our politics. So it's a good idea.
Right. And Prof, let's wrap up with this, and very briefly, what are the concerns, or what should we be concerned about as we attempt to implement these?
I think a couple of things. The MCs, DCs elections, we should be concerned about, because it's going to be 5 people nominated, and then 3 will be selected to contest, including, of course, 1 woman. I want it to be fair at the grassroots, so that people, who have genuine interest in their communities can contest for that. I also want to say that it is a good thing that we are having elections every 5 years instead of 4 years. Why? Because every 20 years we are going to save 4 years of money and logistics, and then the tension in our communities and the country. So that is also a good thing. It's also excellent for those in the diaspora to be able, with dual citizenship, to be able to contest for all elections, except the presidency and then the vice president, because even in America, those who were not born here and are citizens can rise up to the vice president. So it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Inoko Pokwentry, speaking with us. Let's do some other stories tonight.
In more news tonight, residents of La are counting the cost of prolonged power outages, with some households and businesses still without electricity days after a nationwide power disruption. They say the situation is affecting daily activities, increasing operational costs, and putting livelihoods at risk. A report by Crestable Success.
Good morning. Please, I'll buy Valco. Please, I want the children. Oh, please, it's not that children. Oh, I think you can manage it like that. Oh, please, now I want the children.
This brief exchange has become an all too familiar scene in parts of La. With electricity yet to be restored after days of outages, residents say businesses are grinding to a halt. Food is going bad, and daily life has become increasingly difficult. For more than 2 days, residents in sections of La say they have been living without electricity. The prolonged outage has disrupted homes and businesses, forcing many to find costly alternatives just to keep essential services running. Cold stores are no longer keeping drinks and food chilled, while phone charging has become a daily struggle for many.
Since yesterday, business has been running slow because, you see, we have to charge the phones that we use for the deposits and the mobile money transactions. We have to close early because of that.
I didn't work. Yesterday, I closed my shop early. Today, too, we can't work. We are sitting here. Everything is spoiled. Our fridge is off.
Emma, I did turn here slow. And sometimes also, Emma and Yamane woman,
business owners say every passing day without power translates into lost income. Some have resorted to using generators to stay open, but they say the rising cost of fuel is eating into their already dwindling profits.
We run like 2 shops, so we have like 2 generators. You can imagine the fuel we are buying. So from yesterday and then today, we've bought like almost like getting to 2,000 cedis. Then we have cold foods, like stuffs that needs to be frozen. Customers are not coming because maybe somebody wants to come. The person wants to order a ride on your phone.
So we are running the place with a generator for the past 24 hours now.
Others tell me they have had no choice but to close early or suspend operations altogether, as customers leave in search of products that require refrigeration. Residents are also calling on authorities to communicate clearly on when power will be restored.
We are pleading on the government to on the light for us so that business can go on.
Meanwhile, the Energy Ministry says preliminary investigations by Gridco indicate that a lightning strike caused the national power system disturbance, with restoration efforts ongoing and about 80 to 90% of affected power supply already restored. For residents in La, the absence of electricity is more than an inconvenience. Christabel Success Trevor, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, concerns over the future of the Volta aluminium company, Valco, have prompted the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, to meet with the company's management and workers. Addressing staff at the company's premises, the minister dismissed claims assuring workers that government has no intention to sell Valco.
Said government is pursuing a strategy to revive Valco by attracting private investment. According to him, discussions are underway with private investors to raise about $700 million to recapitalize the company, modernize its operations, and return it to full production.
Required to bring new plants and machinery and turn around this plant that has so much potential. So there are a lot of options we have. As a minister, we started an engagement and finally went to cabinet, who has given us the authority to now sit down with investors who are prepared to come and work and turn this place around to negotiate. Cabinet has given us the authority to now sit down and negotiate the fine details of how we can invest and change the story of Valco and make sure Valco is more productive and make sure that we can be profitable and make sure we can hire people and pay our debts.
He added, reviving Valco remains a key part of government's broader agenda to strengthen Ghana's integrated aluminium industry, create jobs and adding value to the country's bauxite resources. The minister also appealed to workers to remain committed as government works to secure the investment needed to restore the company's fortunes.
Until you change certain things, it will be a struggle. I mean, I know how painful it sounds when you come here, you work every day, and then you hear that you can't pay the bills, you can't pay the power producers, you can't pay, because if you are operating at 90 cells, even the power that you are getting, you're underutilizing it. So you are paying for power that you shouldn't be using because of the reality that you are not operating at a maximum capacity of 500 cells. That's the reality you face. And somehow there are people here who says we should leave everything because they get their paycheck every month.
Management and workers welcome the assurance, expressing hope that the planned investment will translate into a sustainable turnaround for the company.
Human trafficking is rising, with culprits shifting from traditional methods to digital. Director General of the Police Criminal Investigative Department, COP Lydia Donko, says cyber-enabled trafficking now includes online investment schemes as police step up and intensify interventions to apprehend culprits.
Fake jobs, education offers, entertainment careers, domestic work, and travel opportunities are being used to lure victims into sexual exploitation, forced labor, and servitude. Director General of the Police Criminal Investigative Department, COP Lydia Donko, warns of new cyber-enabled trafficking methods from digital recruitment platforms and romance scams.
Trafficking is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Traffickers are no longer relying only on physical recruitment. They are using social media, smartphones, digital platforms, and encrypted messaging services to identify, recruit, and exploit victims across borders. The CID continues to investigate cases where victims were promised employment in Europe, the Middle East, or Asia, but were instead trafficked to other destinations and subjected to exploitation. This changing threat requires a changing law enforcement response. The future of anti-trafficking enforcement must combine traditional policing with digital intelligence and international information sharing.
Gender Minister Dr. Nam Momolati says Ghana will pursue traffickers relentlessly as cases continue to surge.
Human trafficking is on the rise because perpetrators have found various means of, enhancing their work. Gradually, people are beginning to question some of the activities and they are reporting suspicious characters. Almost every day, you get information on suspicious movements or activities in one community or the other.
Deputy Controller General of Immigration, Faisal Disu, says authorities have intensified arrests and prosecutions, with hundreds of victims rescued this year.
Between January and July 2026, the Anti-Human Smuggling and Trafficking in Persons Unit, we call it ASTIP, of the Ghana Immigration Service has rescued over 400 victims and arrested 29 suspects. In very recent operations, from Sunday till now, 79 male victims have been rescued. I think that was on July 26th, followed by 93 female victims and the arrest of 17 additional suspects on July 27th, barely 3 days ago. To date, 10 perpetrators have been convicted, 2 paid court-issued fines, and 8 are currently serving custodial sentences of 7 to 8 years.
Marking World Day Against Trafficking, officials urge Ghanaians to remain alert as perpetrators adopt increasingly sophisticated methods. Beatrice Soa, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, corporate Ghana is increasingly finding innovative ways to give back to society. The latest initiative comes from the legal fraternity, where competing law firms have set aside professional rivalry to raise funds for charity through an inter-firm quiz competition. Organizers HBO Legal believe the initiative could redefine corporate philanthropy while strengthening collaboration within the legal profession.
In court, they battle over the law, but on this occasion, lawyers exchanged legal submission for trivia questions, all in the name of charity. HB and O Legal brought together law firms from across Accra for its maiden inter-firm charity quiz night, an initiative designed to raise funds for vulnerable communities while fostering stronger ties among legal practitioners. Organizers say the event demonstrates that corporate social responsibility can extend beyond donations, creating opportunities for professionals to collectively drive social impact.
Lawyers are known to bail, and that's what we're typically tagged with, but we thought would make a difference and show what else we do. Law firms do charity work in their individual capacities. We do the same, but we thought that coming together would be able to create greater impact. The winning law firm gets to choose a charity to donate the funds to. And so together with them, we will choose a charity. We will go through some due diligence to ensure that the monies are going to the right places. And we pray that it makes a difference in the lives of people.
Beyond the competition, the event encouraged networking, teamwork and collaboration among firms that would ordinarily meet as opponents in the courtroom. Legal practitioners say such engagement are helping reshape the profession, proving that collaboration can exist alongside competition.
Coming up, the weather forecast figures for the next 12 to 24 hours.
The news segment is brought to you by Syntex Tank.
You're watching News 360. We're back with more stories after this break. Don't go away.
convert economic stability into real jobs for its youth. Financial economist Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom says while unemployment has edged down, the progress is still too slow.
Current unemployment levels sit between 12.8% from 13.7%. That represents only 1.2% reduction over nearly 2 years. Dr. Boachi-Yadom urges the decline is not sufficient to lift the majority of Ghanaians into decent work. He is calling on government to use the current period of stability to drive a transformative agenda focused on job creation.
If we look at the unemployment figures specifically into youth unemployment, it's so high. The last GSS report tells us that in Accra alone, youth unemployment sits around 49%. And actually, it tells also that the youth unemployment in 2024, which was 32%, is sitting around about 32.5 currently, which marginally has gone up.
Young Ghanaians aged between 15 to 24 are facing a double burden of unemployment and high living costs, expert says. The age bracket covers many recent school leavers who are now entering the job market and seeking independence. But with decent job scarcity, even basic accommodation remains out of reach.
You are going to pay utility bills. The average salary of a first degree person sits around about 2,000 or maximum 2,500. By the time you take out your rent, you take out your utility bills, your daily upkeep in food and transport is not part. The money is finished. So when they complain that the growth numbers are not reflected in the average Ghanaian, it's real, and I think government need to look at them.
Meanwhile, global professional services firm EY says Ghana's economic recovery is becoming increasingly credible, supported by stronger fiscal discipline, moderating inflation, resilient economic growth, and improved external buffers. However, the firm cautions that the country must sustain reforms, strengthen domestic revenue mobilization, and accelerate investment in infrastructure if recent macroeconomic gains are to translate into long-term economic transformation, job creation, and higher living standards.
In its assessment of the 2026 media budget review, the firm says improved fiscal discipline, easing inflation, and resilient economic growth have strengthened confidence in Ghana's economic outlook and signaled a shift from crisis management to reform execution. However, EY cautions that fiscal consolidation must be balanced with increased investment in infrastructure and other productive sectors to support private sector growth and employment. The firm also notes that weaker than expected revenue performance remains a challenge, urging government to improve tax administration, reduce leakages, and broaden compliance without placing additional burdens on businesses and taxpayers. EY further backs Ghana's planned transition from the IMF Extended Credit Facility Program to a facility coordination instrument, describing it as an important step in maintaining investor confidence and preserving reform momentum. It also stresses the need to rebuild the country's sinking fund ahead of more than 111 billion Ghana cedis in domestic debt repayment due between 2027 and 2028, while ensuring that funding for critical sectors such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare is not compromised.
Away from that, as demand for premium housing continues to reshape across real estate landscape, developers are investing in luxury residential projects aimed at both homeowners and investors. The latest is Valco Real Estate's Moonbow development in Laboni, which developers believe will redefine upscale urban living while offering long-term investment value.
Valco Real Estate has become the latest developer to stake its claim with the unveiling of Moonbow, a 15-story residential project expected to transform parts of the Laboni skyline. The development is designed to combine modern architecture with premium residential living, targeting both local and international buyers seeking long-term value. Naziru Ama, the sales manager at Val Real Estate.
The beauty about this project is we're giving back the clients that is return on time, which is the main theme of our project. And return on time is our ROT. And what that means is with the location, you're against traffic, you're counter traffic, so there's no rush hour for you. And we're giving you something special that is all the amenities available. That includes mini mart, pharmacy, rooftop, and an ocean view on the rooftop.
The 15-story development is expected to be completed in 2029, adding to the growing number of luxury residential projects reshaping Accra's urban landscape.
We already hand over 3 projects, 3 out of the 8 projects, Harmonia Residence, Harmonia Villas and Nirvana Villas, and they are fully occupied by residents. So commitment for us, it means that when we come in a such night like now, we give our clients a promise, but it's all about how to do the commitment for that promise. Commitment is the completion date of that promise.
Developers say the response reflects growing confidence in Ghana's premium property market, where location is increasingly becoming a key factor in investment decisions.
Let's now take a look at how the cedi is faring against other trading currencies and how some of our key commodities are faring on the global market. And that's it tonight for Business on News 360. I am Minuafo. We have more news updates coming your way. Don't go anywhere.
The sports news segment is brought to you by Sasso Insecticide Spray and Quad.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on News 360 with Bioreku Ampofo. Mediaman Sporting Club have announced that the CAF, that is Confederation of African Football, has granted Category 2 approval to the TNA Stadium in Takwa, marking a significant milestone for both the club and Ghanaian football. The reconstruction of the Takwa and Abosso Stadium was financed by Goldfields Ghana Foundation at a cost of more than $60 million before it was officially handed over in August 2024. The approval follows a comprehensive inspection by CAF Stadium experts and paves the way for the venue to host selected continental competitions for the first time in its history. CAF's approval means the TNA Stadium is now eligible to host CAF Youth and Women's National Team qualifying matches, as well as preliminary round fixtures in CAF interclub competitions. Let's do some more here, where former Ghana midfielder Lai Kingston has urged Carlos Queiroz and his technical team to focus on building a stronger team rather than focusing on individual abilities. His comment comes after Ghana's last 32 finish at the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Now, we don't have a team because it looks like the players that will play the qualifiers, when it's getting close to the tournament, almost half of them will not even appear. All of a sudden, we see new faces coming from left, right, center. And with that, I will not blame the management. I blame the coaches. I blame the coaches because they are not firm. Because I don't understand why you should justify or play qualification with group of players, and then getting close to the tournament and you start to bring new players. Then they are not building anything. They need to stand on their feet and make sure they are building a team for the nation. When you watch France, once a while you see a young chap coming from the youth system to the first team.
And that chap typically will be somebody who is having a brilliant
season. Exactly. So you can see the consistency in Deschamps' team. For how many years he maintained the same group? Once a while, bring 2-3 young boys into that team. That's a team.
We'll be airing that full interview with Lai Kingston on Friday when Sports Daily comes your way at 10 a.m. here on TV3. However, before we go, Senabu's Mbege's first half strike proved the difference as Senegal claimed a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Kenya in their Women's Africa Cup of Nations Group A clash on Thursday, boosting their hopes of a place in the quarterfinals. The victory sees Senegal bounce back in impressive fashion following their opening day loss to Algeria, while Kenya's hopes of progressing now rest on the final round of group fixtures after suffering a second consecutive defeat in the tournament. And so later, we've seen a North African derby as host Morocco face Algeria, with both teams on 3 points. And then you will be seeing much more fixtures on Friday, as Ghana would be in action over the weekend. However, you can get updates of these games and more on our social media handles. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
News360. My name is Noella Donko. The National Film Authority has cautioned aspiring actors and other creative talents to be vigilant against fraudulent casting calls that demand payment before auditions. In a public awareness message shared on its official Facebook page, the authority stressed that genuine auditions are always free and should never require participants to pay a fee to be considered for a role. According to the NFA, any individual or organization requesting payment before an audition should be treated as potential red flag. The authority explained that legitimate casting opportunities are designed to give performers a platform to showcase their talent, not to generate money for hopeful applicants. The NFA also urged members of the public to verify casting announcements through credible and official sources before responding to any audition invitation. It advised aspiring actors to exercise caution when approached by individuals demanding payment in exchange for access to auditions or promises of movie roles. The advisory forms part of the authority's efforts to protect emerging talents from scams and unethical practices within the film industry while promoting transparency and professionalism in the casting process. And now we get into some tidbits in the world of entertainment. Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Tems has been named executive music producer and curator of the soundtrack for Paramount Pictures' upcoming fantasy film Children of Blood and Bone. The singer has also recorded 3 original songs for the project, while Burna Boy will serve as an executive music consultant. Directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, the film features a star-studded cast including Viola Davis, Idris Elba, Cynthia Erivo, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Ira Star, and our very own Endurance Grant. Children of Blood and Bone is scheduled for worldwide cinema release on January 15, 2027.
No mercy! You must strike!
Award-winning Ghanaian rapper Edem will headline the 17th edition of Ghana Fest New York on Saturday, August 1, 2026 at Crossener Park in Bronx. The annual festival, now in its 17th year, celebrates Ghanaian music, culture and heritage, bringing together Ghanaians in the diaspora, the wider African community and lovers of African culture. Organizers say this year's event will promote cultural exchange, strengthen community bonds, and showcase Ghana's rich traditions through music, food, traditional performances, and other cultural activities. Well, that's it for the entertainment news segment, and do join us for some more some other time. My name is Noella Donko. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Noella. On the international front, U.S. talk show host Oprah Winfrey says the school for girls that she launched in South Africa nearly 20 years ago will close next year. At the end of the 2027 academic year, the expansive boarding school campus near Johannesburg is to be handed over to local education authorities as per the original agreement. Her statement says students enrolled at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls who will not have graduated when it closes will be offered full scholarships elsewhere. More than 1,000 girls have graduated from the school, aimed at those from underprivileged backgrounds and inspired after Winfrey met anti-apartheid icon and former South African President Nelson Mandela in 2002.
We're grateful that you spent the last hour of your time with us, but there's more news on our website, 3news.com. I'm Noble Crosby Annan.
And I am Portia Gabo. Good evening.